Hello, welcome to Flux News from Axiom with myself, PJ, and Stav. Today's date's the 2nd of the 2nd, 2015. I'm going to kick us off tonight with a bit of news from Croatia. A chance for a new start as Croatia writes off debts of 60,000 poorest citizens. Croatian government have gotten creditors on board a plan to erase the debts of some 60,000 poorest citizens. The Fresh Start scheme targets less than 1% of the entire debt, but it is hoped to boost the economy in the long term. The unorthodox measure was voted for by the government on January the 15th and comes into force on Monday. To be eligible to participate, debtors must have no savings or property, have a debt no greater than about $5,100, and live on welfare or an income of no higher than $138 per month. We assess that this measure will be applicable to some 60,000 citizens. Deputy Prime Minister Milanka Opacic, I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, said as he was introducing the bailout, thus they will be given a chance for a new start without a burden of debt. So there's the Prime Minister of Croatia. Some 31 million worth, $31 million worth of bad debts are expected to be written off by creditors who have signed up to the government scheme. Those include several banks, telecommunication companies, major utilities, several major cities and municipalities, as well as the government's own tax agency. None will be refunded for their losses. The program would return access to bank accounts to about 20% of the 317,000 Croatians whose accounts were frozen in July last year due to debts. The entire population of the small Mediterranean nation is 4.4 million. In addition to debt erasing, government Milanovic's government is considering other measures to help its debt-stricken citizens amid the economic recession, which has been plaguing the country for 6 years in a row. Zagreb wants to follow the example of Bulgaria and fix a favourable exchange rate for mortgage loans taken in Swiss francs. The Swiss currency was popular among lenders due to its long-running stability, and mortgage loans denominated in francs were popular in many Eastern European nations. But the economic turmoil in the Eurozone put pressure on the Swiss franc, which was pegged against the euro since 2011, when market volatility made investors rush to the Swiss safe haven currency. The pegging ended in middle of January, sending the franc's value up 20% against other currencies. This led to franc-denominated debts costing much more for foreign borrowers. Hungary was lucky to dodge the damage due to a program launched by the government of Prime Minister Viktor Orban in 2011, which forced a conversion of franc-denominated mortgages into the Hungarian national currency at a fixed rate. Banks operating in the country took the hit, but now the Hungarian government is celebrating saving its citizens from a hard fall. Poland and Romania are considering a similar move, while Croatia has amendments to its Credit Institutions Act already floating in the legislature. So a little bit of news here from Croatia. I don't really particularly hear much from Croatia, do you, Andy?
Well, it's a former Yugoslavian country, innit?
Yeah, one off. Yeah.
What does it say there, or something further up? I think you mentioned something about it only applies if you've got no job, no house, no income, no nothing, and
Oh yeah, this is for the very, very, very poor people over there. It's
$130 odd a month.
oh yeah,
If you've got more than that, you don't qualify. That's about £20 a week.
yeah.
£20 a week. I just think um, it's not even what's the word for it? I can't even think of a word for it. I think it's dreadful, really.
Mm.
It's a bit like saying to people, hey, if you again, if you've got more than £20 a week, we can't help you.
Yeah. Well, what they do over here is it's a little bit different. where
Yeah,
you've
that's
got
right.
where they expect you to have so much before they consider helping you or
Oh
supporting you.
yeah, and the other thing is those businesses that are in with this scheme of a few million quid, whatever it is, they've already been paid out in insurance-backed derivatives,
Mm.
so they don't lose nothing, which is total bull. Where he says, "Oh, they're going to have to stand a loss." Nah, they've already laid the bets off in insurance derivatives and passed it on and got paid for it before they even put it forward. So it's a scam, really. I like to feel positive for 60,000 Croatians, but they ain't going to see no benefit or anything. When you want 20 quid, a week, who's worried about debt?
So,
I think just surviving, eating a piece of bread the next day, looking for a slice of bread's probably more important.
I think what it is because they've got only a certain amount. I think it said the entire population of the small Mediterranean nation is 4.4 million. So they need to keep somebody alive, don't they?
Yeah, well, aren't they part of the EU now?
Croatia, I believe so. Yeah.
Well, how comes Mario Draghi and all the rest of them with their quantitative easing of billions of pounds for corporations or whatever can't sling them a few breadcrumbs?
Mm.
So much for joining the what's his name, Popovich.
Yeah.
So much for joining the EU, Mr. Popovich. Then go to Mario Draghi. I'm sure he'll lend you a few quid.
Mm. Well, moving on to Britain's widening poverty gap should be causing outrage at the start of the election campaign. Little split screen image there, left and the right. Quoting the global elite has failed to benefit the country as the vast disparity in wealth on display in London shows. Come with me on a walk that will ruin your life. It will trash your income and slash your life expectancy by decades as we stroll from one part of London to another. But it will also demonstrate the gross inequality that is plaguing Britain and that ought to be making people mad at the start of this election campaign. We start a short distance away in one of the most privileged parts of the country, never mind London. This is Prince's Gate, a grand Victorian terrace near the Royal Albert Hall, where planning permission has just been granted for what could become the most expensive private home in the capital. As super mansions go, this one looks pretty shabby. In the first three houses in the terrace are yellow like rotten teeth in a row. There is damp growing up the walls of homes that were magnificent when John F. Kennedy lived here as the son of the US ambassador, but now they will be magnificent once again. The Saudi owners want to knock all three through to create one enormous property. with an indoor swimming pool, wine cellar, gym, staff quarters and an underground car park. With 5 stories, an imposing stucco front and views overlooking Hyde Park, it will be worth double what anyone has ever paid for a private home in London, at least on the record, and all within walking distance of one of the poorest neighbourhoods in the country. This is prime Knightsbridge, says Becca Fatimeh of the luxury estate agent Rockstone. If the property was refurbished and converted into a single super prime mansion, it could be worth anything from 200 million to 290 million, which at the upper valuation would make it London's most expensive home. The Gulf Royals would have the money, and a trophy property like this would interest them. So several images here. Just a few images of the most expensive streets in the UK. The Qatari royal family must be in the market, having been turned down a few days ago for a similar project in Regent's Park, where Westminster Council said knocking 2 Regency homes into one was out of the question, when there was already a shortage. However, permission has been granted for the Grade 2 listed Prince's Gate. It sits right on the border with the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, the richest council in Britain, which is even more keen to welcome kings, queens, moguls, tyrants, tycoons, oligarchs and anyone with extreme wealth. The council even offers a discount on council tax if a mansion is a second, third, fourth or 100th home. Yes, this is also a place of extreme inequality. There are damp, overcrowded flats not far away, in which mothers and fathers go hungry in order to feed their children. The poverty gap is widening across Britain in a way that should be causing outrage at the start of the election campaign, and nowhere is it more visible than in this part of London. The richest people living in this country now take a greater share of the total wealth than they did at the start of the century. The top 10% of earners own 54% of total assets, while the top 1% have seen their income soar. Nothing demonstrates this better than a walk across Hyde Park from the most privileged neighbourhood in the capital to the poorest. Prosperity and private healthcare mean that a man living in the lovely terraces around Prince's Gate can expect to live to 91. Cross the road into Kensington and Chelsea, and the average wage is a staggering £101,000. That's the median, allowing for extremes of wealth, while the mean is 36,000. But a walk away to the north lies Golborne, the most deprived ward in London. According to one measure, here the mean average wage is £18,500, and life expectancy for a man is just 72. Along the Moroccan community, that figure drops to 63. Their health is tragic, says Emma Dent Coward, who represents Golborne on the council. I am furious in the inequality here. There is no excuse. The council has reserves of 283 million. We have the money to tackle inequality if we want to, but we just don't want to. She talks of seeing parents go without food until they faint so that their children can eat. She is seeing 4-year-olds whose teeth drop out because of vitamin D deficiency. They arrive at school tiny because they were malnourished in the womb, because the mother could not afford to eat properly. Some of the homes here are Dickensian. These people have nothing. 2/3 of the children in Golborne live in overcrowded homes. Meanwhile, the south, near the Royal Albert Hall, numbers 13, 14 and 15 Prince's Gate stand empty. 8 US ambassadors lived here, which explains the Beaux-Arts facade so beloved in Washington. and the stone's faces of Native Americans looking down from the window's arches. The three homes were bought for $36 million in 2010 by Viridis Real Estate, the property division belonging to the Jamil family of Saudi Arabia, said to be worth $3.3 billion. It was a smart move as property prices have soared by 65% since then. Such deals are often about keeping money safe rather than finding a place to live. The best examples of that can be seen as you walk to Golborne, through Hyde Park and past the armed guards of Sentry Duty at Kensington Palace, to the road that faces the home of the future king. Kensington Palace's gardens is known as Billionaires Row. The mansions are immaculate and supercars wait behind huge iron gates. Residents are said to include the steel magnate Lakshmi Mittal and the Sultan of Brunei, who controls a fortune worth of $40 billion. According to Bloomberg, with a discount for second home status, the Sultan paid £1,942 a year in council tax for his house here in 2012, just £32 a month more than the council tax paid by the Braithwaites, a pensioner couple living with their daughter and grandchildren in a rented home in Golborne. Billionaires Row feels very distant, like a different country, but then you exit through the checkpoint and emerge in Notting Hill, once bohemian but now synonymous with gentrification and the films of Richard Curtis made when this was cool Britannia and we were promised that things can only get better. That was certainly true for Tony Blair, who is now a multimillionaire. So is the architect of New Labour, Peter Mandelson, who famously said that he was intensely relaxed about the filthy rich as long as they paid their taxes. But the trouble with the new filthy rich in London is that they do not pay their taxes here, if at all. Trickle down is a fallacy, says Emma Dent in a cafe beyond the Westway on the edge of Golborne. We have gone with that for how many years now? The property bubble started way before the government came to power. Property prices have gone through the roof as these plutocrats have come from all over the world to live here. But our population is poorer. She accuses the Conservative Council of spending money on making the streets look nice to attract wealthy incomers rather than tackling the poverty hiding behind closed doors. They have sanitised poverty, Disneyfied it. That is not regeneration. They are just displacing the community. It is deliberate. There are pockets of resistance. Many of the original tenants still live in Trellick Tower, which looms above Golborne, designed by modernist architect Erno Goldfinger. It is either a high-rise monstrosity or a modern marvel, depending on who you believe. The people who live there love it because the building works, says Dent Coad, who writes about the architecture and planning as well as being a Labour councillor. I was made in Chelsea. I know there is pride in this community. People may be poor, but many of them keep their homes immaculate. Not every block of flats is as good as the Trellick. Many are a disaster. Come and look at the stairwell, says Teresa, a 47-year-old woman a 47-year-old woman I met on the street. She takes me to a damp, dark, and frankly nasty place. Look, when it rains, the water comes through the ceiling. The paint is all blistered there. You walk under it, you get wet. Her friend Frances, 57, says her neighbours are being moved early because black mold has invaded their flat. Their children are all sick. Both women have been waiting for years to be rehoused, which is why they don't want their surnames to be used. If you say anything against them, they won't give you a flat. There is similar secrecy among the men standing outside a cafe on the street corner waiting for Friday prayers. Mo wants to remain anonymous because he is frightened of losing his job as a night guard at a finance firm. I want to ask him something that has been on my mind a lot during today's walk. Why are there not more riots? Why don't the people who have nothing get angry and just go and grab something from the people who have too much? I have thought about this, he says warily. The poor always go to jail. The rich people never. Ben is appalled to find that gentrification is creeping north. There were Bentleys outside the new pub yesterday. What are they doing here? But the trouble with all this righteous anger from a Labour councillor is that some would say it was New Labour that got us into this mess, encouraging foreign billionaires to come here in the belief that would lead to wider prosperity. Ed Miliband was a key part of an administration that unashamedly cozied up to the super-rich, which may be why he has failed to speak up clearly against inequality so far in this election campaign. I'm not New Labour and never have been, Dent Coad says. What motivates me, drives me to a fury, is social injustice. If something is wrong, we have to fight it, even if there is little chance of success. In a city seemingly besotted with super wealth, you've got to have a dream, mate. The poverty gap is wide and getting wider. Anyone who takes a walk can see that. The question now, as an election looms, who dares to do something about it? So there you go. Quite a lengthy article there, Andy. Sorry about that, but
Well, that's all right. I missed a bit of it because I got invaded by Skype,
okay.
and I couldn't get it off. But I eventually got there. I couldn't remove it. It just kept ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing. But I got the gist of the article, and well, yeah, it's I have a theory that most of the elites will move into London throughout Europe, probably other countries, and the normal. I mean, London is not London as I remember it as a kid or as a teenager. It's completely changed. I know a lot of people around here that moved out. They were London born and bred, generations of families, and they can't live there. Haven't been able to live there for donkey's years. They moved out. Most of the, real Londoners don't live there anymore. They're pushed out. And now what they're doing with the last remaining ones, have you seen with the rented accommodation where they're trying to evict all the residents? I think Mr. Brand was involved with the residents and their protest and everything. I think they're just going to move, just ordinary people out, and especially right in the centre. Well, most of it's super rich anyway, and eventually, lots of the world's elites will live there or move there because I think it's going to be the financial capital of the New World Order. It already is the financial capital of the world.
Oh yeah.
And basically, who they're going to ask? Who they're looking to at the moment? Boris Johnson.
George Osborne.
Well, he's meant to be he's not the Lord Mayor of London. He's only the Mayor of London. The Lord Mayor of London in the City of London is a different ball game. Far more. He's just a guy that London's what used to be Londoners, what's left of them, think that he's there for them. It's not at all. But, this is. I think that's my theory, that most of the world's elites will have a nice little mansion in London, the financial capital of the New World Order, whatever that may be.
To me, the difference between these two buildings, apart from the obvious, is the fact that, if you were to fall over this wall, you could probably hurt yourself, but if you're going to go over this wall, this fence here, you're definitely going to injure yourself.
Well, looks a bit like Traitor's Gate, doesn't it?
It does.
Could be useful. Could be useful.
Moving on. BBC Two's latest great idea for a business documentary fails to deliver. The 24-hour parcel people for modern times strand has to have a big re-edit when the CityLink goes into administration. Focusing on a single company is an accepted if slightly eyebrow-raising tactic in TV about business. Think of Iceland Foods and the call centre, and it evidently seemed a good idea for BBC Two's resuscitated modern times strand to film the staff and clients of CityLink in order to shed light on the booming times enjoyed by a UK parcel delivery industry worth almost £6 billion. A good idea that is, until Christmas Eve when the company went into administration, apparently necessitating an almighty reverse ferry in which 24-hour parcel people, coming up on 12th of February, was re-edited to accommodate this inconvenient development. If you run into anyone from BBC Two or BBC Factual in the near future, try to sensitively avoid potentially offensive words such as all, eggs, one, basket, and even pudding. So paying your TV licence, look forward to getting what you're given. Moving on. Alan Barnes meets woman behind the £250,000 campaign. Mugging victim Alan Barnes says he didn't expect anything as he meets the beautician who set up an online fundraising page. A disabled pensioner who was mugged outside his home has met the campaigner for the first time. Alan Barnes, 67, said it felt magic to meet beautician Katie Cutler, who set up an online fundraising page after reading about the attack. The 21-year-old's campaign went viral and has raised more than 500 times its original £500 target in just 3 days. Mr. Barnes said, "I didn't expect anything. It's hard to figure out what to think, really." Miss Cutler said, "It's like a dream." Mr. Barnes, who has disabilities from birth after his mother contracted German measles when she was pregnant, broke his collarbone when he was pushed over by his attacker. People were moved to help after hearing that Mr. Barnes, who is 4 foot 6 inches tall and weighs less than 6 stone, was too afraid to return to his home in Gateshead, Tyne Wear. Following reports of the attack, which police described as disgraceful, Miss Cutler set up the Help Alan Barnes online donation page on the crowdfunding platform GoFundMe. She wrote, "I was so upset that anyone could target a disabled pensioner and be so cruel. We can't take away what has happened, but with a little donation we can make the future a prettier one and help towards the cost of his new home. Thank you all." So there you go for the latest on the campaign, which has shot up in the past few days to quite a significant amount. And say again, Andy?
Has any of the political bigwigs donated anything? I wonder.
Doesn't really go into much.
Or should we say, any of the banks gave up their lunch for the day and donated an equivalent amount? It's a good story. It's good because this woman's put this together, and obviously the public has responded, which is good.
Yeah. Nice sign of support.
Well, yeah, it's nice to see that there is some strands of humanity out there and caring. I think it is. It's just.
Yeah. Well, that's my final article. I'd leave you with Andy before I pass it over for you.
Very good. Yeah, that's right. Excellent. I haven't got much. Again, I don't know why. I just seem to be struggling just slightly. Anyway, what we got? They're just little bit stories. news bits. This one's about medical experts furious that doctors will be paid to dole out risky statins. There they are, look. Don't they look appetising? Anyway, going down the page. Doctors are set to get extra payments to hand out controversial statin drugs to patients who face low risk of ever developing heart disease. Well, low risk of ever developing heart disease. It could mean 4 in 10 adults, including most of those in late middle age, are put on regular doses in a move that medicalises healthy people, leaving them at risk of side effects including diabetes and memory loss. Medical experts are angry that doctors are being offered incentives to prescribe the drugs by a government watchdog, which they say is of doubtful benefit and may cause harm. Yet many heart specialists say that for a large number of patients, the benefits do not outweigh the risks, which include diabetes, cataracts, debilitating muscle pains, memory loss, and fatigue. They say doctors instead should be advising patients to follow a healthy diet and lifestyle to decrease the risk of heart attacks. So there you go, and that's that. You know quite a bit about that, PJ, but you know, I think I would say my doctor, but he's not really. He's just a chap I know. I took all my pills back to him ages ago, put them on his desk. I said, there you go, I don't need them anymore. Oh, right, he said. Well, so it's down to you. I mean, it is your body. I said, yeah, you're damn right it is. Anyway, end of that little story.
If you want to learn alphabet and learn how to count them, they're perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 20, 10. ATV, is that a television corporation? I don't know what that means. It's got like a pair of lips on it, like a smiley face. See that, PJ?
Yep, see that one, yeah.
Smiley face. And P20, pill number 20. I don't know. Statins. I mean, people know about statins. It's more side effects than preventative or anything. Moving on. Here's another quick story. KGB and CIA kept secret dossier on Britain's VIP paedophiles. It's been claimed that both Russia and US intelligence compiled their own secret dossier on British paedophile MPs and other VIP abusers. The Mirror reports police are investigating missing files put together by UK campaigners, which allege a powerful network at the heart of Westminster in the 70s and 80s. The Sons of People can reveal that agents from the Russian KGB and the American CIA were also said to have compiled their own intelligence in search of dirt on key individuals at the height of the Cold War. I think we've entered a new one, haven't we? One source close to the KGB said these were troubled times, and my task was to identify people who could perhaps help us with information. We knew of some MPs who loved rent boys, and others who were active paedophiles. We were also aware of some unusual activities at Westminster and the work of the Paedophile Information Exchange (PI). Unusual activities. Several regular names emerged and we wanted to make contact and use these to our advantage. In those days, MPs were protected by special branch, and anyone with a checkered history or an unhealthy appetite for young children was soon flagged up by them. He can be useful, you know. They had a difficult job, but were fully aware that we knew what they knew, and they tried hard to suppress any possible leaks. Just adding more information to the paedophile scandal throughout Westminster. Ongoing alleged paedophile scandal at Westminster, because it's ongoing. I haven't heard much from Miss May just lately. But there we go. Any quick comments on that for me onto my main article, PJ?
Not really, not as yet, no.
It's
Not
just
not that we've not covered previously, I don't think.
nah. That's right. And anyway, moving on. This is my main article. Nothing to do with politics. You're happy to know. Wormhole in the galaxy will take us to another universe. Experts say. All right. Here we go. Recent studies suggest a huge doorway, otherwise known as a wormhole, to another universe may exist at the centre of the Milky Way galaxy and will be large enough to swallow big spaceships. Einstein's theory of general relativity say that instantaneous travel between distant points in space and time and theoretically possible, and wormholes are believed to allow travel between distant points in space and time. The Daily Mail reports. But most scientists dismiss the idea of ever building one large and stable enough to pass through, and no natural examples have been detected. I presume that means spaceships. The extraordinary new theory published in the journal Annals of Physics follows the discovery of what appears to be a supermassive black hole at the centre of our galaxy. According to the Italian authors, the black hole, a region of concentrated gravity that distorts space-time, may be a wormhole in disguise. The scientists who based their conclusion on complex mathematical models say the portal could be constructed from dark matter. The researchers combined the map of the dark matter in the Milky Way with the most recent Big Bang model to explain the universe. Space-time can be warped and distorted. It takes an enormous amount of matter or energy to create such distortions, but theoretically, distortions are possible. In the case of the wormhole, a shortcut is made by warping the fabric of space-time. Imagine folding a piece of paper with two pencil marks drawn on it to represent 2 points in space and time. The line between them shows the distance from one point to the other in normal space-time. If the paper is now bent and folded over almost double, the equivalent to warping space-time, then poking the pencil through the paper provides a much shorter way of linking the 2 points. In the same way, a wormhole would create a shortcut. That's a nice, easy explanation for it. The problem with using wormholes to travel in space or time is that they are inherently unstable. When a particle enters a wormhole, it also creates fluctuations that cause the structure to collapse in on it. What we get is that our galaxy could really contain one of these tunnels, and that the tunnel could even be the size of the galaxy itself, said Professor Paolo Salucci from the International School for Advanced Studies in Trieste, Italy. But there's more. We could even travel through this tunnel, since based on our calculations, it could be navigable, just like the one we've seen in the recent film Interstellar. He said the research was surprisingly close to what was depicted in director Christopher Nolan's movie, for which theoretical physicist Kip Thorne provided technical assistance. What we tried to do in our study was to solve the very equation that the astrophysicist Murph was working on, said Professor Salucci. Clearly, we did it long before the film came out. Any wormholes existing in nature have previously been assumed to be microscopic rips in the fabric of space-time, but one possibly lying at the centre of the Milky Way would be large enough to swallow up a spaceship. Professor Salucci added, obviously we're not claiming that our galaxy is definitely a wormhole, but simply that, according to the theoretical models, this hypothesis is a possibility. Other spiral galaxies similar to the Milky Way, like its neighbour Andromeda, may also contain wormholes, the scientists believe. Theoretically, it might be possible to test the idea by comparing the Milky Way with a different type of nearby galaxy such as one of the irregular Magellanic Clouds. In their paper, the scientists write, our result is very important because it confirms the possible existence of wormholes in most of the spiral galaxies. dark matter may supply the fuel for constructing and sustaining a wormhole. Hence, wormholes could be found in nature, and our study may encourage scientists to seek observational evidence for wormholes in the galactic halo region. The study follows similar research last year in which physicists at Cambridge University argued that some wormholes are capable of staying open long enough to send messages backwards and forwards through time. Wow. My calculations showed that if a wormhole is very long compared to how wide it is, you can get negative energy created in the centre of the wormhole, said Professor Luke Butcher. It's not quite the right sort to keep the wormhole stable, which is what I'd hoped, but it does mean the wormhole collapses very slowly. The wormhole would open just long enough, Dr. Butcher suggests, to send a photon through to the centre. Because the ends of a wormhole can exist at different points in time, if Professor Butcher's theory proves correct, a message could be sent through time. Well, what a thought. Well, these are meant to be experts. So, lots of professors and physicists and educated minds coming up with wormholes. I mean, we've heard of them, obviously. It's been in movies and stuff, and whatever, but if mainline physicists and universities and, well, should we say,
Morgan Freeman.
Yes. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But I just thought it was an interesting story tonight that sort of grabbed a bit of my attention rather than the other bits.
Interesting.
Yeah, well,
interesting article, Andy. Enjoyed that.
Yeah, it throws it. I've never really I've thought about it, but I've not thought about it for more than a few seconds really. But reading that article, and I like the way they described, how the wormhole, how you could envisage it, because a lot of people go, well, yeah, how does that work then? What do you mean? It's stargates, short way to another galaxy, whatever. But the bit of paper, the 2 points. Some people find that simple explanation hard to grasp. But it's quite self-explained. It's quite easily explained, and anybody can understand that now. They say, "Oh right, yeah, I see how it's done. How do you warp time and space, or space-time?" Now it's quite simple to when somebody just puts it like that. So, well, it was quite a good little article, really. Open mind article, backed up by suggestions that there's strong possibilities it could exist from experts and physicists, which is kind of nice. So I thought that was a pretty good article. There we are. That's me done for tonight.
Good stuff, Andy. Thanks for that. Yeah, and myself, I don't think I've got anything else. So do join us again tomorrow for more Flux news. And until then, we'll say goodbye.